Today we're doing page 109 and 110. Also we'll be doing 111 and 112, so get all of those pages out. Your glory fills the skies, your mighty works displayed for all to see. We're going to start on 109. Hey kitty. And it says to find the greatest common factor for the pair of numbers. So we have 2 and 4. And so I want you to write, you'll have to do it kind of small, but write your 2 and 4. And what are their factors? Well, for 2, our factors are 1 and 2. And for 4, our factors are 1, 2, and 4. And so it's telling us what is the greatest common factor of the pairs? Well, 2. The common factors are 1 and 2, and the greatest would be 2. Okay, letter B, we have 4 and 8. What are our factors for 4? It's 1, 2, and 4. Our factors for 8 would be 1, 2, 4, and 8. And so our greatest common factor would be 4. Okay, letter C. We have 3 and 9. Factors for 3 would be 1 and 3. Factors for 9 would be 1, 3, and 9. So our greatest common factor would be 3. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. 8 and 12, you get 1, 2, 4, 8. 12, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And so your greatest would be 4. E. In E, your greatest common factor would be 3. So I've written out all the factors for 6 and all the factors for 18. They have 1 in common, they have 2 in common, they have 3 in common, and they have 6 in common. And so 6 would be the greatest. So 6 is your GCF. Okay, I'm looking at G now. I wrote down all my factors for 2, wrote down all my factors for 12, and the greatest common factor would be 2. For H, I've written down the factors for 4 and the factors for 6. And the greatest common factor in both would be 2. Number 2, it's telling us to circle the greatest common factor for the pair of numbers. So what they've done is they've given us the numbers 7 and 14. And then they've written down some numbers down here. We need to decide which one would be the greatest number that goes into both 7 and 14. For this one, 7 goes into 7 and 7 goes into 14, so that is the greatest one. B, our numbers are 5 and 15. What's the greatest number that goes into 5 and 15? Raise your hand if you think it's 1. Raise your hand if you think it's 3. Raise your hand if you think it's 5. And raise your hand if you think it's 9. The GCF for 5 and 15 would be 5. Okay, C. We have 8 and 12. What do you think the GCF is going to be? Raise your hand if you think it's 1. Raise your hand if you think it's 3. Raise your hand if you think it's 4. And raise your hand if you think it's 6. The GCF for 8 and 12 is going to be 4. D, we have 2 and 12. Raise your hand if you think the GCF would be 1. Raise your hand if you think it'd be 2. Raise your hand if you think it'd be 3. And raise your hand if you think it'd be 6. The GCF for 2 and 12 would be 2. Okay, now we're going to look at number 3. It says to circle the correct answer for each. What they've given us is the metric prefix. We have deca, deci, kilo, hecto. And we have to decide each of those, which numbers below it match up with its value. And if you look in the back of your book, under your metric measures, you're going to see the value for each one. See here we have milla is 1,000th. Centa is 100th. Deci is 1/10. Deca is 10. Hecto is 100. And kilo is 1,000. And with that, that's going to help you to be able to do these problems. Deca, when we look back at it, deca would be 10. So we circle the 10. Deci would be 1/10. So we circle the 1/10. C, kilo. We look here at kilo, it's 1,000. So we circle 1,000. And then the hecto, we find hecto right here. It's 100. So we circle 100. Let's do the story problems down at the bottom of the page together. It says Rashid sold 13 dozen ears of corn for $3.60 per dozen. How much did he get for the corn? Well, if each dozen was $3.60, and he sold 13 of them, you need to multiply to be able to get your answer. And then the letter B goes along with the letter A. It's asking at the rate given in the story problem, in the first one, in story problem A, what was the cost of 1 ear of corn? Well, we know that it's $3.60 for a dozen. But they're not asking for a dozen. They're asking how much would it be just for one. So a dozen is 12. So you'd take 12 and divide it into $3.60. And then you'd be able to get your answer. Okay, now let's go ahead and look at the top of page 111. And you'll be doing 111 and 112 also. In the top of 111, they have a chart that we got to fill in. The directions say to complete this chart, and this is reviewing our factoring, reviewing our pairs of factors, our common factors, and our GCF, our greatest common factor. And so they've done a lot of the chart for us already. We need to go ahead and pick up where they left off. And they last were using the numbers 12 and 20. And they already put all the pairs of factors. And then they wrote out the factors in numerical order. We need to find what are the common factors here. Well, it looks like 1, 2, 4, and that would be it. So our common factors are 1, 2, and 4. And then our greatest common factor would be whatever number here is the biggest, and it's 4. Okay, the next part, they've made it easy for us. They already came up with the pairs of factors. So we need to write out the pairs of factors in numerical order. So we have 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 6. And we need to write it in that order. And then we'll do the 18. And then our common factors will be 1, 2, 3, and 6. And our greatest common factor will be 6. Okay, 9, we have 1 times 9, and 3 times 3. So I'm going to write 1, 3, 9. For 21, we have 1 times 21, and 3 times 7. So we have 1, 3, 7, 21. So our common factors are going to be 1 and 3, and our greatest common factor will be 3. Okay, for 15 we have 1 and 15. We also have 3 times 5. So we have 1, 3, 5, 15. 30, we have a lot of them. We've got, and I'm going to write a little to the side because I'm going to run out of room. You'll be able to do it on yours, but 1 times 30. Also 2 times 15. 3 times 10. And 5 times 6. So we have a lot of them here to squeeze in right small. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, 30. 1, 2, 3, 5. Our common factors would be 1, 3, 5, and 15. And our greatest common factor will be 15. Okay, we're looking at number 2. Determine the greatest common factor between the two numbers. And try to do the factoring work mentally. Meaning just looking at them, see if you can figure out what the GCF would be for, here in A, 12 and 15. What would be the greatest number you can think of that can go into 12 and 15? Go ahead and write it on your paper, and I'll put it down up here in a second, and you can erase it and change it if you got it wrong. You should have put 3. 3 is the greatest number that goes into both 12 and 15. So go ahead and do B right now. What's the greatest number that goes into 2 and 6? I think B is a pretty easy one. It'd be 2. 2 is the biggest number that goes in both 2 and 6. C, what would be the biggest number that goes into 5 and 10? You should have put down 5. D, what's the greatest number that goes in both 7 and 21? It'd be 7. E, what's the GCF for 8 and 14? It'd be 2. And then F, what's the GCF for 4 and 12? 4 is the greatest number that goes into 4 and 12. Okay, 3A is telling us to follow the signs. We're adding mixed numbers here and subtracting mixed numbers on some of them. We got 11 as our denominator. Add our numerators. 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 3 more is 10. 10 over 11. 3 plus 9 is 12, plus 7 more would be 19. Carry the 1. 1 plus 8 is 9, plus 4 would be 13, plus 6 would be 19. We get 199 and 10 over 11. B, we have a denominator of 18. And this is subtraction this time. 17 minus 10 would be 7. 9 minus 7 would be 2. 6 minus 3 would be 3. And 1 minus 1 would be nothing. So we get 32 and 7 over 18. C, we have a denominator of 10. 9 minus 6 would be 3. 3 minus 7 we can't do, so we have to borrow. We got to go all the way to the 4 and borrow from the 4. We get 3. That becomes a 10. We now borrow from that 10. It becomes a 9. 13 minus 7 we can now do, and we get 6. 9 minus 8 we get 1. 3 minus 2 we get 1. And so our answer is 116 and 3 over 10. D, we're going to be adding. 13 will be our denominator. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 7 more would be 10. Let's add our whole numbers. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 9 more would be 16. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 more is 4, plus 1 is 5. And we get 56 and 10 over 13. 4A. Mr. Blumberg is a truck driver. On his last trip, he averaged 52 miles per hour for 7 hours. How far did he travel? Well, for each hour, he's going about 52 miles. And he did it for 7 hours, so we need to multiply 52 times 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Carry the 1. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 1 more, 36. So 364 miles. Mr. Blumberg was hauling 43 refrigerators, which cost $931.50 each. What was the total cost of the refrigerators? And so what you're going to have to do is another multiplying of these two numbers. Okay, we got to fill in the blank after choosing the correct answer. And remember, if you need to with these, you still have the option to look back in your book under your metric measures and under your English measures. And there you'll be able to easily get through these. You can do it now while you're working on your homework assignments, but when you do the test, you won't be able to look in the back of your book. So you need to start memorizing some of these if you haven't already. First one, it says 1 yard equals how many feet? That'd be 3. 1 century is how many years? It'd be 100. 1 meter is how many millimeters? 1,000. 1 hour is how many minutes? 60. 1 ton is how many pounds? It'd be 2,000. And then your last one, 1 gallon is 4 quarts. 1 week, how many days? 7. 1 foot, how many inches? 12. 1 quart, how many pints would be a quart? It'd be 2. 1 kilometer, how many meters would that be? It'd be 1,000. 1 pound, how many ounces? That'd be 16. And then your last one, 1 decade is 10 years. You go ahead and do the rest on your own. You guys are so smart. I know you can do it.